All right, guys. So today I want to share with you the framework that I use for all of my copywriting, B2B SaaS copywriting and messaging projects. I usually share this only with my potential clients on strategy sessions, but I've seen so many B2B SaaS companies struggle that I decided that I wanted to put this out there. Let's say that you've got a solid product, but your website isn't converting like it should. There's probably nothing wrong with the words per se. The words might be fine, but there's this whole other level that a lot of people miss, and this is what I want to get into today. I spent years refining this process, testing it with Series A to C SaaS companies and even startups. And I can tell you, once you see how these pieces fit together, you can't unsee it. It's like getting a new pair of glasses completely. So today I'm pulling back the curtain, no pitch, no fluff, just the exact framework that I use to help my clients turn complex products into clear, compelling messages that actually convert. So let's dive in. There's one big misconception with B2B SaaS copy. So everyone's obsessed with finding the perfect words, that magic headline, that killer value proposition, right? So sure, words matter, but here's the thing, words alone are just the base metal, as I say. It's the alchemy of copy, UX, and buyer psychology that turns those words into actual gold. If you have no idea who I am, my name is Chris, and after helping over 50 B2B SaaS companies like Moz and ShortStack transform their messaging into actual conversions, I've noticed something interesting. The companies that actually get it right aren't just writing better copy, they are thinking about it completely differently. Now, before I show you the framework that I use with my SaaS clients, let me quickly tell you who this is actually for, because I love sharing what works, but I also want to make sure that this is worth your time, right? So this is for you if you are a B2B SaaS company's past product market fit, typically Series A and beyond. If you're already getting decent traffic but struggling to convert it, if you're dealing with complex products that are hard to explain simply, if you're finding it tough to stand out in a crowded market. So these are the characteristics that I see in my typical clients, right? If this sounds like you, then what I'm about to share has helped some of my clients double their conversion rates in 60 days or less. So stick with me. And look, if you're just starting out, maybe still finding product market fit, you can bookmark this for later. Principles are still solid, but I think you got bigger fish to fry, right? So this is really for teams who know they've got something great, but just can't seem to get their message to land. All right, so what's the problem behind all of this, right? Ever wonder why your website is converting? You might have got good copy, your design might look sharp, but something's still not clicking. And here's what most people miss. While technology and marketing tactics keep evolving, there's one thing that hasn't changed in millennia, and that's human behavior. The way we think, process information, and make decisions follows ancient patterns, right? And that's exactly what I leverage in what I call the alchemical conversion model, which is the foundation of everything I do at Conversion Alchemy for my B2B SaaS clients. Here's what happens when you get this framework and the process right. You understand your product faster. That's probably the basic layer, right? You start collecting the right data and get accurate view of your customers and your market. You can create repeatable messaging framework that you can reuse throughout all your channels and media. You can connect the dots and get people to take action, which is the ultimate goal, right? You can make your value impossible to ignore. That's how you stand out when you make this work right. First, before actually going forward, I want to share a couple of principles that are the foundation behind this that will help you understand why this works compared to traditional messaging approaches. This is powerful stuff that I don't really hear a lot of people talk about or talk about enough. We don't read words, we unpack meaning. What do I mean with this? This is the principle behind understanding people, right? Copywriting is more than just choosing the right words, it's creating messaging that resonates emotionally and logically with the audience. You need people to feel like you truly get them, and that's the job of your copy. Your copy should turn those words on the page into a conversation that drives action. You need to avoid people to have to do more work than necessary to unpack what you mean out of the words that you use. The second one, which is the experience layer, as I say, a great copy can't resonate if it can't be found. This is where the user experience of copy, as I say, comes into play. This is the silent force behind every conversion. It's not just what's said, but how it's presented. And this is when your copy can be consumed without friction, without obstacles, right? So this is the second layer. Third, you're not selling a product, you're selling a decision. What do I mean by that? This is the layer that leads to action. So if you think about the copy that you write as a series of micro decisions, by understanding the psychology behind why people buy, you can create messaging that taps into their desires and addresses their doubts, reduce their cognitive load, right? So you reduce all of those friction points in all those micro decisions that make people feel confident in choosing you and create basically a seamless experience, right? So these are the kind of three principles and approaches behind everything we do. But how can we help readers then unpack meaning, ensure that they find and engage with the right message at the right time, and also empower them to make that decision, right? A decision that feels like their own, not that you are being pushy or salesy. How do you convince them that this is what's right for them and that they were fully committed to that decision? Here's how we do it. The first stage, to address that understanding layer, we call it empathize and guide. The second stage, clarify and sway. And the third stage, shield and lead. Now, I want to go into each of these one by one, showing you examples of how I did it with a recent client, Moz, so that you can get an understanding, right? So the first one, it's empathize and guide. Think of it like meeting someone exactly where they are and then showing them the way forward. Here's what most SaaS companies get wrong. They start with, we help companies do X. No one cares, right? So your visitors aren't sitting there waiting to hear about your company. They're in the middle of their own story. Traditional advice says you should write as directly, as concisely as possible because B2B people are busy and blah, 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 right? Wrong. That's exactly how you end up with a diluted, vague messaging. Instead, what if you could make your homepage feel personal to a CTO, to a VP of product, to a CFO all at once, right? That would be wonderful. So let me show you what I mean. This is what we've done for Moz, right? So this is their Moz Pro product overview page. You can see the before and after. So before, the all-in-one SEO toolkit. If you look at competitors, so Ahrefs, all other competitors, this is probably on 80% of the pages that you will encounter. So what we did here was to actually empathize and guide with these people. We understood the layer understanding that a lot of the ideal customers for Moz Pro were looking for a simpler way of doing SEO. They didn't really care about the all-in-one SEO tool. They wanted to simplify the way that they did SEO and just get qualified traffic to grow. Ultimately, that was the ultimate goal, right? So that's exactly what we've given them in the copy: simplify SEO, attract qualified traffic, and grow faster. So this is an example of joining that conversation that's already happening inside their head. You first address that understanding layer, understand that they are thinking about this, and then you express it on the page. So then when they land, they feel like you're getting them, right? And the next logical and only step for them is just to keep scrolling because this is exactly what they need. As far as the process, how do we address that understanding layer? How do we do it actually? So Here, I typically divide my research process into three areas: internal research, user research, and market research. Internal research, it's understanding my clients, right? So if you're a company, if you're in house, speak to all your stakeholders from the founder, marketing, sales, product, customer success, account, if you're account based marketing, all of those, right? To get as broad of a perspective as possible to understand the internal view on the product and the customers from the inside, right? Second one is user research. So you want to get an idea of that transformation that needs to happen for prospects to become customers. So you have to understand the visitor layer, prospect, and the customer layer, right? So the buyer. So that after that, you can connect the dots. How do you connect the dots between the before people buy and after people buy? You have to understand that. So you run customer interviews, surveys. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it, but this is basically the gist. Third, market research. So you have to get an understanding of how much and what your customers know about the market, about the industry, about the competition. So you need to get a snapshot of that and of the words that they use so that you can actually mirror all of that on the page. This is how you get to that understanding and the empathize and guide stage for your copy. Now, the second step is clarify and sway. So here's where it gets interesting. You might have heard the usual conventional wisdom saying always start with benefits rather than features, right? That's a bit oversimplified, I think, especially in B2B SaaS. The truth is, it depends entirely on who you're talking to. If you're dealing with a technically sophisticated buyer who's been neck deep in the problem for years, they absolutely want to know about your real time syncing capabilities or your specific API endpoints and so on, right? Just a couple of examples. These folks know exactly what features solve their problems. But here's the key: you still need to connect those features to outcomes, right? Just in a different way. Instead of the usual feature X helps you do Y, you might say your team's already familiar with GraphQL, let's say. Perfect. Our native GraphQL support means you can be up and running in hours, not weeks. Just an example, right? So, see the difference? We are not hiding the technical details. We are just making sure they're anchored to something your prospect actually cares about. In this case, fast implementation. It's about meeting their sophistication level while still keeping the focus on what matters to them. I've seen this work beautifully for developer tools, enterprise security products, where the buyers are often more technically savvy than the vendors, right? So these folks will smell BS a mile away if you try to add features behind like fluffy benefits, but they'll also ignore you if you can't connect those features to actual goals. So here's what that looks in practice in our example. So this is the before of the Moz Pro product page again. You can see understand visitors, right? This is very benefit oriented as far as across it. And then we dive into some of the features, but still quite high level. Track your rankings, okay. Crawl and audit your sites. Pretty generic, pretty good, but pretty vague. What we did in the new page was to anchor those benefits to actual specific features, right? So improve your search visibility, drive more qualified traffic, and then for each of these deeper benefits for this main section, for example, we anchored it to a specific feature. So maximize visibility with Keyword Explorer, save time with keyword suggestions, understand your audience with search intent. And you can see then in the paragraphs we went deeper, expanded on those, still keeping a good balance of features and benefits, but in a way that it's immediately scannable, skimmable for users so that they get both, absorb both. Another example, another section, right? Simplify your workflows to power your business growth. Again, same exact mechanism. Finally, a bit more of a different section here. This wasn't necessarily a platform advantage or differentiation. This was more of an ecosystem differentiation. But again, we've considered the different elements of the ecosystem. So their academy, Whiteboard Fridays, Moz blog, all those educational components of their online brand ecosystem, we've considered them as features. So how do you anchor those features to benefits? We presented the features and then the benefits in each. With each click, you could expand the sections, right, to show the benefits. All right, so this is what that process looks like. To address this, typically we work on priorities. So we fix what's broken, we adjust what's not resonating, and add what's missing. This could be different sections on a couple of pages, replacing what's not working with new messaging, adding different sections to pages that are missing, or even adding new pages in the website hierarchy and flow in order to fill in the gaps in the user journey. We craft personas and transformation maps just to connect the dots between that before and after that we talked about. And then sometimes we work on positioning, messaging. We create this messaging and value proposition framework that helps us know how to connect those features to those benefits on all pages of the website. Okay, lastly, our third step is shield and lead. So at the foundation of this, it's the concept that no matter how much someone wants to buy, there are always psychological barriers to overcome. So everyone talks about reducing friction in the buying process. It's pretty much a given now. But there's one counterintuitive truth. Sometimes you need to deliberately, I think, bring up those objections before prospects do. Most SaaS companies, for example, hide their objection handling in FAQs at the bottom of the page. And I think it's a big mistake because by then your prospects has already formed their own objections and has probably bounced. So instead, what you want to do is to bring up those exact things that they're worried about right when they are thinking them. So if they're looking at your pricing, for example, don't just show them the number. Acknowledge that it might be higher than alternatives, then explain why that actually saves them money in the long run, for example. Remember, B2B buyers aren't looking for the cheapest option, right? They are looking for the safest choice. So show them you understand their fears and they'll trust you to address them. Here's the example of how we've done it with Moz. So this is the old API product page. Yes, we had a couple of testimonials. It was pretty standard, pretty short page as well. We had an FAQ where we addressed those objections, but it wasn't really nailing it. It wasn't really bringing up those objections proactively. So what we did was first add some contextual social proof. So when we have a section like this where we talk about how we build a foundation for trusted data and then we go into how we do it exactly with the API, then every claim we make brings up an objection subconsciously for people. So what do we do to address that? Boom. We add a quick testimonial, social proof that's contextual, so in the context of our claim. And that helps us proactively address and anticipate what people think as they go through the copy. Another example here for the integrations, so the speed, code faster, integrate easier with the new API v3, right? Another testimonial contextually. What's included with the new API here? We've anticipated people asking exactly what was inside. So this was one of the things that we've heard and we knew from our audience that they might want to know. So we clearly and plainly state everything that they get. The search data behind your favorite marketing tools. What is the section about? Behind any API, the strength of an API, it's the data, right? That it has access to. In this case, one of the strongest points of differentiation for Moz was their massive amounts of quality data, right? So we've anticipated that a lot of users might want to know exactly where the data comes from, how it's built, what exactly they can get access to as part of the data. So we provided them a dedicated section with an actual link to a dedicated page, right? So this is another example of shielding and leading, guiding them through their decisions in a way that feels frictionless because we are proactively bringing up these points and not letting them figure stuff out, right? This is where a lot of the wireframing and the UX aspect comes into play of our work. So after we wrote the copy and maybe sales collateral, then we turn all of that into wireframes and we preemptively design on the wireframes how the copy should look like in order for users to consume it the right way. So then when it gets time for design to pick it up and create mockups, they know exactly what's in our heads as copywriters, what we've envisioned for the copy to look like in the final design. If you're curious and want to learn more about the specific Moz case study, you can head to conversionalchemy.net/work and download the PDF of the full case studies, right? So, what makes this framework different? It's not just another copywriting framework, right? It's based on timeless human psychology and on a ton of other different heuristics and models that I've studied in my 9 years as a copywriter, including Mac Labs, including a couple of CRO framework not a lot of people know. But all of those were based on hundreds, if not thousands, of tests and heuristics that have been proven over and over. This is just a collection of all those principles in a way that's easier to consume and implement. It combines copy, UX, buyer behavior. It's systematic and repeatable because you can literally install it in any organization and make sure that you continue collecting data and structure it and implement this framework to write better messaging and copy. And it's proven across 50 plus B2B SaaS companies, which is all my clients, right? So if this sounds interesting to you, if you want to get in touch, or if you want to try it yourself and have questions, you can either book a study session with me on my website, conversionalchemy.net, or DM me on Instagram. I'm always in the DM. We can have a chat. You can ask me questions. So see you on the other side.